My boyfriend broke his leg saving his first love, but my mom praised him for being loyal and righteous. She even threatened to kill herself to force me into marrying him. Later, I died in childbirth, leaving a mother and child dead, and my mom wept with joy. She said, "You're finally dead. You should have gone to hell long ago. Only when you're dead can those in love pursue the happiness they desire openly." When I opened my eyes again, Hyujo proposed to me once more. "It's time for someone else to go to hell. Meow meow, will you marry me?" As a faint male voice rang out, the noisy chatter of the onlookers gradually became clear. Marry him, marry him. I suddenly snapped back to reality, the scene before me both unfamiliar and familiar. This was when Hyujo proposed to me. This time, didn't I already die in the delivery room? How did I go back a year? Could it be I'd been reborn? Hyujo at this moment held a bouquet of flowers, his face full of anticipation. My gaze slowly swept over his crutch, stopping at the empty half of his trouser leg. In my previous life, after a class reunion, Tsurui and I were chatting by the roadside when a runaway truck came barreling towards us. Hyujo pushed Tsurui out of the way, but was crushed by the oncoming truck, resulting in the amputation of his right leg below the knee. He stayed in the hospital for a month, and although Tsurui had sneaked in to visit countless times, on the day of his discharge, he dramatically proposed to me at the hospital room door. Hyujo claimed it was to save me that he lost his leg, and the onlookers, self-proclaimed paragons of justice, condemned me vehemently from their moral high ground. When the truck came barreling towards us, Tsurui and I were standing very close. She was pushed aside and fell, and I was knocked down as well. No one can prove that I wasn't the one he intended to push away. The crowd watching the proposal was furious, each one condemning us. My mother even threatened to die if I didn't comply. My long-standing cowardice led me to not refuse the marriage proposal on the spot. Afterwards, as if nothing had happened with Tsurui, Hyujo's behavior could be considered that of a model fiancé. He was thoughtful and considerate in life, always giving in to me. After a drunken accident, we ended up in a confused situation together, and even had a child. Perhaps because I didn't want the child to be born without a father, I gradually stopped being so stubborn, believing his excuse that he had just been in a hurry and pushed the wrong person, and we ended up getting married in a haze. To my surprise, only after my death, when my soul floated in the air, did I accidentally discover that he had been secretly involved with Tsurui behind my back all along. And my death was no accident at all. Boundless hatred almost overwhelmed me, and I couldn't help but clench my fists. Seeing that I remained silent for a long time, Hyujo extended the bouquet in his hand forward again. "Meow meow, will you marry me? I promise to treat you well for the rest of my life." His voice carried an unmistakable tone of flattery and indulgence, clearly embodying the ideal, perfect boyfriend. We secretly dated in high school, and after 7 years together, he had said things like this to me countless times. I remember the day he first confessed his feelings to me. It was Christmas, after the late-night study session in our final year of high school. We walked home together, under the dim streetlights with snow swirling around. He magically produced a rose, his expression earnest and sincere. "Su meow, be my girlfriend. I promise to treat you well for the rest of my life." I was so moved that tears welled up in my eyes, and I nodded eagerly without hesitation. Little did I know, this was all part of Hyujo's act to show off in front of Tsurui. The goal was to stir up her jealousy. The familiar oath made my stomach churn when I heard it again. Reborn, marry him, marry him. The surrounding cheers rose, and I raised my hand expressionlessly, slapping him hard across the face. No good. Hyujo was momentarily stunned, clearly not expecting me to strike. After all, we had been together for so many years, and I had always been gentle and considerate towards him. But it only took him a second to snap out of it. Ignoring his already swollen cheek, he stumbled forward to grab my hand. His quick movement almost caused him to fall. "Meow meow, did you hurt your hand?" I shook it off with disgust. Hyujo's eyes were filled with hurt. "Meow meow, is it because I'm disabled that you don't want me anymore? Although I'm crippled in one leg, I can still take good care of you." He was strikingly handsome, standing over 6 feet tall with sharp, defined features and a pair of captivating almond-shaped eyes beneath his strong brows. His current demeanor, one of humble submission, made him appear even more deeply affectionate. The lobby of the inpatient department at 8 a.m. was already bustling with people, and with his physical disability, there were quite a few onlookers gathered to witness this proposal. The crowd began to murmur and discuss among themselves. Suddenly, a young girl with a ponytail let out a surprised exclamation. "The man who heroically saved his girlfriend on Chujo Road a couple of days ago, It seems to be him, I saw it on Douyin. The crowd erupted in commotion. They risked their lives to save you. You can't be ungrateful. Such an ungrateful woman, we should expose her. As they talked, someone already started filming with their phone. Just as I was about to speak, my mom quickly stepped forward, grabbed my hand fiercely, and the pain made me fall silent. Her tone was laced with reproach. Meow meow. Yujo lost his legs saving you. What more could you possibly want? Stop making a spectacle for outsiders to laugh at. Her words undoubtedly further emphasized the fact that Yujo saved me. Mom, Yujo didn't save me at all. He saved Surui next to me. My voice rose sharply, filled with grievance. Meow meow, don't be so willful. Not to mention that Joe broke his leg to save you, even if he had broken his leg to save someone else. Such a man of loyalty and righteousness is definitely worth trusting. My mother's grandiose speech prompted applause from everyone around. What a paragon of loyalty and righteousness. Seeing that I remained unmoved, she wiped away her tears, filled with righteous indignation, and charged toward the railing in the center of the hall. The entire hospital is designed in an oval shape, with a central atrium and escalators. At the moment, we are on the 4th floor of the hospital. If she were to jump, she would either die or break a leg. My mother looked ready to die for honor. Our Su family has no such disobedient daughter like you. It seems only my death can preserve the reputation of the Su family. The same scene played out in my previous life, facing my boyfriend's betrayal, the public condemnation, and my mother's threat to jump off a building. I could only cowardly back down, sinking deeper into the mire afterward. This time, I will make that despicable couple reveal their true colors. I cried hoarsely. Mom, hearing my voice, my mom, whose steps were already slow, paused, her eyes betraying an almost imperceptible joy. Mom, do you know that Yujo has secretly pledged his life to my best friend, Surui? As soon as the gossip spread, the crowd buzzed with discussion. I screamed in utter despair. After Yujo injured his leg, Surui came to the hospital to be with him several times. Both the man I love and my best friend betrayed me. Why are you forcing me? As I spoke, I pointed toward the pure white figure at the elevator entrance, suddenly called out. Surui, pale-faced, stepped out from behind the pillar under everyone's scrutinizing gaze, awkwardly waving her hands. I barely managed to raise the corner of my mouth at her through the crowd of onlookers. No one can stay out of this mess. I felt as if all my strength had been drained, leaning against the hall pillar and sliding to the ground, tears streaming down my face. Rui, you said your family was poor, and I paid for all 4 years of your college tuition. When you first started looking for a job, you said your boss was making inappropriate advances, and I stood by you, doing everything I could to help you switch companies. Last winter during the big freeze, I couldn't reach you on the phone, so I walked through the snow for over an hour to your rental place just to make sure you were safe, too. And you, why did you end up with my boyfriend? My voice is hoarse, and my face shows disbelief and sorrow. As the eldest daughter of the Su family, I grew up in comfort, with both my looks and attire naturally being quite presentable. At this moment, with tears like pear blossoms, my pitiful appearance stirred a sense of compassion in everyone present. Was it a falling out between best friends over a man, or a betrayal of trust by a woman? Why would a mother force her daughter to marry a cripple? The more curious the crowd became, the larger the gathering grew. Surui began to defend herself, aggrieved. Meow meow, I didn't do it. Seeing that I remained unmoved, she decided to stop pretending to be weak. You say I'm involved with Yujo. What evidence do you have? You were entangled in the hospital room, and the nurse who came to check saw it all. How can you deny it? I don't know if the nurse actually saw it, but I'm betting on Surui's guilt. You're slandering me. Surui was indeed flustered and raised her hand to charge over. The onlookers naturally wouldn't give her a chance to strike, and a few kind-hearted men immediately stepped forward to restrain her. The scene gradually descended into chaos. In the end, the hospital had to call several security guards to disperse the crowd, and the farce of a marriage proposal had to come to an end. As soon as I got home, a tall, dignified middle-aged man was already standing in the living room. That was my father, Su Chongsong. In my previous life, I stumbled into the house in a daze, completely forgetting to seek his help, and just locked myself in the bedroom on the 3rd floor. I didn't come downstairs for a week, and the meals were brought to my room by the housekeeper. By the time I came downstairs again, my dad had already been dragged by my mom to Sanya for a vacation, which lasted for 2 or 3 months. By the time they returned, I was already pregnant with Yujo's child, with no way back. This time, I rushed into his arms and cried before my mom could even speak. Dad, Yujo and Surui are together, and he even lost a leg for her. and my mom is forcing me to marry him. As the only daughter of the Su family, my dad definitely loves me, especially since he's never liked Hyujo. In his words, it's hard to explain why, but he just doesn't like him upon first glance. This scoundrel, I knew he wasn't a good person. My dad clenched his fist, clearly angry. In my previous life, I wasn't ambitious. After getting pregnant with Hyujo's child, I obediently stayed home to nurture the baby, just as the company faced a crisis. Hyujo tirelessly worked alongside my father to overcome the difficulties. With my constant cooing and sweet-talking, my father's attitude toward him drastically improved, making him an indispensable right-hand man to my father. It seems that in this life, Hyujo won't get the chance. My mother had already been unable to hold back her impatience. Lao Su, it's not that I'm blaming you, but you've always spoiled her since she was young. Hyujo is just too honest. Do you know that he lost that leg all because of saving Meow Meow? In my previous life, I rarely disobeyed my mother, first, because I was timid by nature, and second, because I couldn't bear to see her upset. But this time around, I won't be pushed around anymore. Dad, it's not what Mom said. At the time, Surui and I were just chatting by the roadside, and Hyujo clearly wasn't there to save me. After saying that, I felt wronged and my eyes welled up with tears. I don't know why. But Mom pushed me out to take the blame for Surui. If you didn't know better, you'd think she was Mom's real daughter. My mom's face turned pale in an instant. Could it be that she and Surui really have some special relationship? When Dad heard me say that, it was like he thought of something. His face turned cold, and he looked at my mom with a very serious expression. Warm son, this matter ends here. I will not allow my daughter to marry a cripple. My mother wanted to say something more, but my father had already turned away. Displeased, I quickly followed him, entered the study together, and closed the door behind me. Dad, I've also graduated with a master's degree and want to join the company to learn from you. My father had just sat down at his desk, looking at me with some surprise. Meow Meow, didn't you say before that making spicy strips was too tiring, and we should start an internet business? When it comes to starting a business, I can only think that my head must have been flooded back then. After I graduated with my master's degree, Hyujo had already been navigating the social world for 2 years. He painted a glorious picture of the current internet economy for me. He also told me that in the current situation, sticking to traditional industry is a dead end, and only the internet economy offers a way out. Back then, my heart and eyes were only for him, so naturally, I believed every word he said. After a big argument with my dad, I took out all the pocket money I had saved over the years, totaling over 3 million, and invested it all in Hyujo. Only after I died did I find out that all that money had been given to Surui, used for tipping and promoting on live streaming platforms. With shame on my face, I sincerely apologized to my dad. Dad, I misjudged people and made mistakes in the past. This near-death experience has taught me a lot. Going out to start a business with nothing but enthusiasm isn't wise, and I'm confident that one day, I'll be able to integrate traditional industries with internet economy, taking our family's company to the next level. A man in his 40s, his eyes slightly red, nodded with satisfaction. On my first day at the company, the proposal video from the hospital also made it to the top of a certain blog's trending list. The act of love and bravery on Chuzhou Road went viral a month ago. Although many people in this world loudly proclaim that they don't need love, most of them secretly yearn to be loved. A tragic story paired with unwavering love naturally attracts attention, and if the protagonists also possess striking looks, it gains even more traction. Now that the proposal video has been released, it naturally attracts a lot of onlookers. The video was clearly edited, leaving only the part where Hyujo proposed and I slapped him. The comments below were varied, but all were unanimous in condemning me. See, this is what women are like. I advise all male compatriots not to give their hearts away. Although I'm a woman, this time I side with the man. Those who betray true feelings deserve to swallow 10,000 needles. I curse this woman. May she be hit by a big truck next time. The comments below the video are filled with all kinds of unpleasant comments. I casually read through the comments, then turned off my phone and followed the marketing manager into the office. Most major spicy strip manufacturers have already automated their production processes, but due to a lack of funds, Chongsong Spicy Strip Factory is unable to upgrade its machinery, and many steps still rely on manual labor, resulting in high labor costs. The spicy strips produced by the factory are mostly sold to secondary agents or supermarkets, with only a small portion being sold through their own online store. The presence of middlemen naturally cuts into the profits. Considering these unfavorable factors, The profits of the spicy strip factory have been declining year by year. This year, especially, has been even tougher for Chongsong as many manufacturers have joined the live streaming sales trend. On my first day of work, I spent the entire day in the marketing department, only opening my phone wearily in the evening, hundreds of missed calls and over 99 WeChat messages. It was obvious they were all about the incident on the Weibo video. As soon as I stepped into the house, my mom eagerly followed me into my room. Meow meow. Do you know the trouble you've caused the family by refusing the proposal? My mom sat across from me, looking utterly disappointed and frustrated. I casually took a sip of water, pretending to be very confused. Mom, Hyujo betrayed me first. I don't think there's anything wrong with refusing him. My mom flushed with anger, pulled out her phone, scrolled through it, and then slammed it in front of me. How dare you even talk? Look for yourself. This is an entertainment news story. It's quite something. The blogger went through the trouble of combining the moment Hyujo bravely intervened on Chuzhou Road with the scene of his marriage proposal getting interrupted. All set to a quirky, meme-like soundtrack, the post has already garnered over 100,000 likes and shares. At the end of the video, the blogger also took a rather sarcastic dig at my identity, the Chuzhou heiress of spicy sticks. The comments under the video were all negative, not only targeting me but also boycotting our spicy sticks, almost simultaneously. The marketing manager from the marketing department called, saying that a large number of buyers had suddenly flooded the online store, and the order quantity had exceeded 10,000, no guessing needed. These self-proclaimed righteous netizens plan to buy a large quantity of our spicy sticks first, and then collectively leave bad reviews or request returns to express their resentment. Meow meow, your dad has always doted on you, and I'm sure you wouldn't want Chongsong Spicy Strip Factory to go bankrupt. For now, you need to listen to your mom. My mom spoke earnestly, looking like she had no other choice. I'll contact you, Joe. And tonight the two of you will make a public statement saying that you only refused to marry out of a petty quarrel over daily trivial matters, but now you've made up. Netizens passionately buying spicy strips, receiving and reviewing or returning them. The shortest time needed is 3 days. 3 days would be enough for me to handle it. Having a plan in mind, I didn't reveal any flaws and pretended to reluctantly compromise. Well, I'll meet him first and talk about it. Seeing me give in, my mom was overjoyed, affectionately patted the top of my head, and then hurriedly left the room. Watching her joyful expression, my doubts only deepened. I am her only daughter, so why would she go to such great lengths to push me in front of Su Rui as a shield? Could it be that Su Rui is her illegitimate daughter? The timeline of pregnancy spans nearly 10 months, and my mother was often in the public eye when she was young, so it would have been impossible for others not to notice her pregnancy. If they are not mother and daughter, then why would she go to such great lengths to help? Before I could figure out what was going on, my mom came into my room again. Meow meow, I just called you Joe, and he still loves you. He was really worried when he heard about your situation. He's asking you to meet him at the coffee shop on West Street now to discuss what to do. West Street, coffee shop. This place suddenly brought back some memories from my mind. In my previous life, Hyujo also brought me here. It was a coffee shop inside a village in the city, with a classical and elegant environment, and a great atmosphere. That night, even though we were at the coffee shop, we ordered 2 cups of sake. As I drank, I started feeling dizzy and began rambling about all the grievances I had endured over the years. Then, in a blur, I ended up in bed with him, and we had a child. Since he's in such a hurry, I'll give him a good show. Okay, I'll take a shower and change clothes first. I used the excuse of showering to get rid of my mom and then turned around to close the door. After turning on the shower head, I dialed a number from the bathroom. By the time I arrived at the coffee shop on West Street, it was already 8 p.m. The small balcony on the second floor originally had only 2 or 3 tables, and now it has been completely reserved and cleared. Seeing me arrive, Hyujo, somewhat excited, stood up with the help of his cane. Meow meow, it's so good that you still want to see me. I didn't respond and sat down opposite him. I've heard about the situation with your family's factory, and I'm willing to cooperate with you to issue a statement. Hyujo patted himself proudly, took the 2 cups of sake handed over by the waiter, and with a smile, pushed one of them towards me. I remember during university, you always said you wanted to try some low-alcohol fruit wine. Theirs is pretty good, give it a try. Seeing the obvious anxiety in the other person's eyes, I continued to stir the liquid in my cup with a straw silently. Do you have any suggestions for making a statement? The netizens all sympathize with me. Having lost both my legs and my girlfriend, if we both agree to say it was just a quarrel, we can reconcile, and the netizens will feel relieved. Maybe it could even bring a surge of traffic to your spicy snacks. Hyujo looked at me with eager eyes. In the current situation, issuing a statement saying it was just a quarrel would make me look like a fool, wouldn't it? Netizens definitely won't believe such groundless reasons. My family's factory was damaged, and Hyujo helped without holding a grudge. Anyone with half a brain can guess how badly I'd be slammed by netizens. While his devoted persona would naturally become even more solid, he sure has his calculations all figured out. I choked up as if I could no longer control my emotions. The net friends all sympathize with you, but who will sympathize with me? Hyujo was momentarily stunned, not expecting my sudden emotional breakdown. 3. That day, you clearly saved Surui, but you attributed your heroic act to me. To put it bluntly, isn't it just because I'm the only daughter of the Su family? I forced out a couple of tears and said, but do you know, the Su family's daughter isn't just me, there might be Surui too. Isn't that ridiculous? Hyujo was clearly shocked. What did you say? I pretended to be heartbroken. In other words, my dad had an affair behind my mom's back, and there's a daughter of his, Surui, who's about my age. The funniest part is that all these years, I've treated her as my best friend. I had already tipped off my dad, and by now, his people are probably already looking for Surui to get a DNA test. Of course, it's not just about her relationship with my dad, but also her relationship with my mom, so even if Hyujo goes to Surui to verify, he won't be able to figure out the truth. On top of that, all the effort I've put into Surui over the years makes it easy for people to speculate. Not long after Surui and I became best friends in my sophomore year of high school, my mom treated her exceptionally well. Even if she brought a dish from home, she would make sure to share it equally, and she never skimped on gifts during holidays. For her 18th birthday, my mom had a custom dress made for her, perfectly suited to her delicate, innocent charm. She even put more thought into it than she did for her own daughter. He naturally remembered all of this, instinctively assuming it was Su Chongsung's arrangement. The joy in his heart almost couldn't be contained. He had always loved Surui. If it weren't for the Su family's daughter, he would never have considered marrying me. Now that the title of Su's daughter has been bestowed upon Surui as well, it couldn't be better. I gazed into the distant night sky and sighed. Now that this has happened, my father has already started reaching out to Surui. I'm sure her identity will be revealed soon. After saying that, I turned around as if I were a bit disoriented, taking advantage of his momentary lapse, and quickly left the rooftop on the second floor. Meanwhile, my dad also solemnly posted a message on social media. 3 days later, the Su family is set to host a grand reception, where they will announce a major event and provide direct answers to questions raised by netizens. These days, Chongsong spicy sticks were already at the peak of their popularity. As soon as my dad's message went out, it immediately triggered a flood of reposts from marketing accounts, reaching an unprecedented level of heat. Of course, the statement about Hyujo and I didn't appear as scheduled, and my mother left the house early in the morning. Soon after, I received a message and several photos from a private detective on my phone. Miss Su, Madam Su went to the suburban villa. The suburban villa is a private restaurant, and the man she met with today is a middle-aged man. This person is actually Hyujo's father. The two of them entered a private room together, chatting enthusiastically, clearly not their first meeting. About half an hour later, the private detective had already sent over the video of their encounter. Nuan, what's going on? Didn't we say that once Hyujo marries Su Miao Miao, we could be together forever? The middle-aged man asked tenderly. Lu Nuanyang is my mother's name, and I didn't expect him to call her so intimately. My mother didn't seem to think anything was wrong either. She gave him a playful glare and said, I told you. Don't rush. Even if they get married, it will take Hyujo a long time to establish himself in the Su family. In my previous life, Hyujo was able to quickly establish himself in the Su family, and it seems my mother helped a lot. You're not in a hurry, but I am. The thought of you having to deal with that old man Su Chongsong makes me incredibly jealous. The middle-aged man grinned lecherously and pinched her waist. And your good daughter Su Miao Miao, who actually dared to publicly refuse the marriage proposal. Don't go soft on her later. My mother blushed shyly. Don't worry, Su Chongsong and I are just playing along. As for Su Miao Miao, I have plenty of ways to make her willingly agree to the marriage. I hold Hyujo in such high regard. He certainly won't let me down. Indeed, Hyujo didn't disappoint her. He successfully established himself in the Su family, undermined my father's power, tormented me, leading to my death in childbirth along with my unborn child. In the end, he lived happily with Surui. They are truly ruthless. I didn't hold back either. I forwarded the video to my dad. In the evening, my dad met me at a barbecue stand near the company building. Ever since I went to college, I've been completely focused on Hyujo, and I rarely went out to eat with him. Looking back after being reborn, I realized he was starting to show his age. Meow meow, it's dad's fault. Shu Chang-song poured himself a glass of beer. I clinked my glass with his and teased, "Could Su Rui really be your illegitimate daughter?" Shu Chang-song was so startled that his glass shook, and he stammered, "No, it's not. She's not your mother's illegitimate daughter." This time, it was my turn to be a bit surprised. "If she's not my mother's illegitimate daughter, then why have you been so kind to her all these years? After watching the video you sent me this afternoon." I kept thinking about it for a long time, and it suddenly dawned on me. Back then, your mother was desperate to marry He Qingyun, Hyujo's father, but your grandparents were against it and forcefully separated them. Su Changsong took a bitter gulp of beer and continued, He Qingyun was penniless back then. With a large family of siblings, before the two of them were even set, his family started making all sorts of unreasonable demands, but your mom was head over heels in love, and no matter how much her family tried to talk her out of it, she wouldn't listen. Could love-struck brains be hereditary? Thinking about the ridiculous things I did for Hyujo in my previous life, I couldn't help but chug down a big gulp of beer myself. Later, during the factory reforms, the paper mill was in crisis. And your grandparents thought I was decent enough. They planned to collaborate with the food factory, so your mom and I were essentially a business arrangement. Perhaps because you were the product of a business arrangement, she's been cold to you all these years. The evening breeze brushed against my cheek, raising goosebumps on my hand, and as I thought of past life memories, I was already in tears, just because Hyujo is the son of her first love. He has received my mother's boundless love and tolerance. This love surpasses that for her own daughter, even at the cost of her daughter's lifelong happiness, or even her life. She would not hesitate. In my previous life, how could I have imagined that the truth of the matter would be so absurd? The reception was held as scheduled at the largest hotel in Chuzhou 3 days after the statement was issued. Half an hour before the formal start, Su Rui arrived at my room in a pure white gown. Smiling radiantly, today, she had specially put on a simple makeup, her figure wrapped in the gown, and her innocent face still gave off an innocent and harmless aura. "You don't know, do you? I'm the illegitimate daughter your father had outside." Su Rui was extremely pleased with herself. I carefully smoothed the lipstick on my lips, turned to her, and gave a gentle smile. "Is that so?" I don't know why, but those words seemed to enrage her, and her face twisted into a hideous expression. "Su Meow Meow, I hate your pretentious rich girl act the most. Why do you always act so confident whenever there's a problem? Isn't it just because the Su family backs you up? Let me tell you, after today, I'll be just like you, a legitimate young lady of the Su family." I remained calm and composed. "Then I congratulate you in advance." Su Rui clearly hadn't expected me to be so calm, and she stomped her feet angrily on the ground before turning and leaving. She had barely been gone for a few minutes when my mother also pushed the door open and came in. It was obvious that she was in a good mood today. "Meow meow, Yuzhou has prepared a big surprise for you at the reception later," she said, smoothing my hair with a mysterious air. Even now, she still refuses to give up on trying to secure an opportunity for Hyujo. I didn't answer, letting the single tear, born of some unnamed emotion, slide down my cheek and drop onto the makeup table. At this moment, perhaps during one of the countless moments before, the bond of kinship between her and me was completely gone. Amidst the expectant gazes of everyone, my father, dressed in a spicy strip factory worker's outfit, walked onto the stage with a beaming smile. On Chuzhou Road, Hyujo, this young man, is indeed a great hero who risked his life to save others. As the audience below sighed, my father continued to add, "But the person he really wanted to save wasn't my daughter Su Meow Meow, but her best friend Su Rui." Seeing that the situation was not right, Hyujo quickly pressed the wheelchair controls and rushed out from behind the stage. "Uncle, please believe me, I really went to save Meow Meow, and everyone can see my feelings for her. Meow Meow and I met in high school, spending a dull yet meaningful student life together. We made promises under the snow-filled sky, watched the starry heavens together, walked through the water towns of Jiangnan, and saw the vast grasslands. Back then, we promised to be together forever. Meow Meow, would you give me another chance to start over together?" As he spoke, Hyujo stood up from his wheelchair. Countless phones and cameras focused on his legs, and many female media workers on the scene even teared up. The amputated leg had been forcibly fitted with a prosthetic, and his current stance, though painful, was both inspiring and deeply emotional. Please take a look at the VCR. 4. As he struggled to plug in the USB drive, everyone followed his gesture to look at the big screen. With a tap of the staff member's finger, a selfie of him and Surui cheek to cheek appeared clearly on the screen. Hijosho stood there, stunned in disbelief. How could that be? Following the release of a few intimate photos, the surveillance video of him risking his life to save others on Chuzhou Road was also made public. The perspective, however, was changed. It was from the private surveillance camera of the ramen shop diagonally across the street. Unlike the road surveillance footage, from this angle, it's clear that Hiyujo was rushing directly toward Surui. The onlookers were in an uproar. Hiyujo charged toward the computer screen like a madman, but before he could get close, he was forcefully pushed back into his wheelchair by Sue's staff, amidst the curious gazes of the crowd. I gracefully walked onto the stage, my eyes filled with endless grievance. Thank you all for coming today to witness my innocence. These days, I've been misunderstood online, and everyone says I'm ungrateful. My family's products have also suffered malicious purchases because of my situation. To be honest, the pressure has been overwhelming. The grievances of my past life surged back to my heart at this moment. And I wept uncontrollably. My boyfriend of many years, whom I deeply loved, and my best friend had been secretly seeing each other behind my back. If it weren't for the crisis on Chuzhou Road, I might still be in the dark. Neither of them came from well-off families. Since high school, I had practically covered all their living expenses, buying countless gifts and clothes, and even transferred 3 million yuan to Hiyujo in one go when he proposed starting a business after graduating from university. Hearing this figure, there was another wave of gasps from the crowd. I never expected it to turn out this way. I choked up so much that I couldn't finish the sentence. These were all things I truly experienced in my previous life, truths that remained unrevealed until my death. After letting everyone discuss for a few minutes, I wiped away my tears and forced a smile that was both strong and fragile. These things are all in the past now. Once again, thank you all for giving me the opportunity to explain the truth. Pausing for a moment, I added, those righteous netizens who bought my spicy strips and threatened to leave bad reviews, could you give the strips a chance and try them before making a fair judgment? The media workers on the scene all gave me kind smiles. At that moment, my dad stepped up to the front and began sincerely introducing Chongsung spicy sticks. As the press conference was drawing to a close, Surui could no longer hold back and bolted out from the side door, throwing herself at my dad's side. Dad, it's all because of Hiyujo, this scumbag, who deceived me. But no matter what, I'm your daughter from the Su family. You can't abandon me. The media workers who were just about to leave suddenly caught a whiff of gossip and turned their cameras toward the two. I don't have a daughter like you. My father snorted coldly. I've heard from others that you plan to slander my reputation on the day of the press conference, which is why I used the excuse of finding a long-lost relative to get a paternity test done with you a couple of days ago. With that, he projected the test results from his phone onto the big screen. According to the paternity test report, Surui has no blood relation to my father. The farce truly ends here and now, just 5 minutes after the reception ended. Today's events have already hit the trending list on Weibo. While people are expressing sympathy for me in the comments, they are also frantically placing orders at Chongsung Leishio's official Taobao store. In the hotel lobby, Hiyujo sits weakly in his wheelchair, and Surui sits silently on the floor. As for my mom, she came rushing to me in tears, gripping my hand tightly. Meow meow. Yujo was just momentarily confused. As long as you marry him, he will surely cherish you like a treasure. Now that he's lost his legs, people online will definitely bash him. If you leave him too, how is he supposed to live? 5. I pulled my hand away, exasperated, my eyes cold. Mom, if Hiyujo is the son of your first love and that's why you're so protective of him, I can understand. But what about Surui? Why have you been so nice to her all these years? I don't believe it's just because she's my best friend. Even if I could live again, I still wouldn't understand. As soon as I said that, she naturally guessed that we already knew the truth about everything. She burst into wild laughter, as if she no longer cared about anything. Because Surui is the girl Yujo truly loves, his first love. How could such a beautiful and pure love be tainted by money? Hearing her response, I couldn't help but laugh. So, neither I nor Dad can compete with your first love complex. If money has tainted your beautiful love, then why do you want Hiyujo to take over the Su family's fortune? After saying that, amidst their stunned gazes, I pulled my dad up and turned to leave the hall without hesitation. Half a year later, my parents parted ways peacefully. My father still had a soft heart and gave my mother a significant portion of the property. As I expected, she happily took that large sum of money and got married to Hee Ching-yoon. Of course, Hee Yoo-jo and Soo Rui had become the targets of public condemnation, and they had no choice but to reluctantly form a family. With that large sum of money, my mother allowed the four of us to live a short but carefree and happy life. However, the good times didn't last long. Not only did Hee Ching-yoon repeatedly fail in his investments, but he also developed a habit of drinking and gambling. Every time he lost money, he would snap at my mother, the once unattainable lover, now entangled in the mundane of daily life, gradually became a source of constant quarrels and even physical fights. As for Hee Yoo-jo and Soo Rui, their lives were even worse. Their living expenses were entirely supported by my mother's meager income. Since Hee Yoo-jo's physical disability, his temper grew increasingly worse, often throwing things and frequently beating Soo Rui until she was bruised and swollen. One time, while trying to relax in his wheelchair, he fell into a ditch, chair and all, rescued but left partially paralyzed. He became increasingly erratic and unstable. The private detective we hired at home said that the first thing Hee Yoo-jo said after being rescued from the ditch was, "I already took over Soo Corporation. I already made the company bigger and stronger. I'm the CEO of Soo Corporation. How did life turn out like this?" When the private detective relayed these words, my dad and the few executives present just took it as a joke. Only I know that Hee Yoo-jo must have also been reborn. Realizing this possibility made me incredibly happy. Only by being reborn can he truly feel the difference between his past life and this one. The sense of falling from the peak of success to rock bottom will torment him day by day until the end of his life. Later, I turned Cheongsong Spicy Strip Factory into one of the top players in the domestic spicy strip industry, creating thousands of jobs in Chuzhou and earning the title of renowned entrepreneur awarded by the government, through a friend's introduction. I met a gentle and courteous university professor, formed a family, and had a healthy and adorable baby. I rarely pay attention to Hee Yoo-jo's life anymore. Occasionally, I hear about their miserable situation from friends, but I just smile and move on. I believe that after avenging the great wrong, the best life would be one of peace and happiness. Story 2. I blocked an out-of-control truck for my boyfriend and became a vegetable. 3 years later, I woke up, and he was going to marry someone else. Unable to withstand the blow, I jumped from a high building. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back in the second before the accident. This time, I did not step forward. 1. I did rehabilitation abroad for more than a year and finally can eat, dress, and walk independently without any assistance. These simple tasks that are easy for ordinary people are as difficult as reaching for the stars for me. Even the doctors said it was a medical miracle. After all, that car accident had left me in a deep coma for 3 whole years. Everyone thought I would never wake up, or if I wake up, I will become foolish and paralyzed. But not only have I woken up, I have been getting better and better during this year of rehabilitation, and soon I will be able to stand and be no different from ordinary people. For this day, I endured pain that ordinary people cannot bear and countless mental breakdowns. I have waited too long for this day. I can finally pack my bags and return to my country, preparing to give Jiang-yi, who still doesn't know I have woken up, a surprise. But when I endured the discomfort of a long flight and secretly returned to Jiang-yi's home, the inside was unexpectedly covered with red double happiness characters of all sizes. The house has been renovated, and the cat climbing frame I designed that reached the ceiling has been taken down and replaced with a pink cabinet. My friends are blowing up balloons. My classmates are hanging streamers. My aunt selected the roundest and plumpest longan and peanuts, trying to arrange the 4 characters' early birth of noble children on the red dragon and phoenix bed. My boyfriend is wearing a well-tailored suit, looking as exquisite as a mannequin in a shop window. A pair of newlyweds' wedding photos are hanging on the wall. That girl has a sweet smile. At that moment, a person holding hot tea accidentally bumped into my arm. The hot water splashed onto me, quickly leaving a red mark. The person exclaimed in surprise. Now everyone turned to look at us. Their eyes showed shock, joy, but more was embarrassment and helplessness. The longan in my aunt's hand was even dropped, rolling all over the ground. All the laughter and joy came to an abrupt stop at that moment. Jiang-yi's pupils constricted, and soon, his face turned pale. He hesitantly spoke, his voice trembling. "Lin's son." I forced out a face that looked worse than crying, unsure whether to respond. My body instinctively took 2 steps back, then quickly ran out. Penang had already entered autumn. The cold wind outside was biting, and some withered leaves were piled up along the road. Stepping on them, the leaf veins cracked, making a somewhat harsh sound, because of the after effects. I wasn't running fast. That short distance nearly exhausted all my strength. Soon, a pair of arms reached out from behind, tightly wrapping around my waist. Jiangyi held me in his arms, his whole body trembling. "You're back, Lin-sun. I miss you so much." My tears splashed onto his expensive suit. "I am back. But everything seems like it can't go back." 2. Jiangyi went to that girl's house to break off the engagement. With only 18 hours left until the wedding, my little aunt gently stroked my face. Her eyes filled with tears. "Don't blame Jiangyi. He has suffered too much in these 4 years. If it weren't for that girl, he might not have made it through." I felt a lump in my throat, my gaze falling on the corsage on her right breast. The bright red rose had a matching satin ribbon hanging below, with the words "Witness" boldly written on it. The aunt quickly covered her chest flower with her hand, her well-maintained face showing some embarrassment. "Xiaoxuan, I'm not trying to betray you. I just didn't expect you to wake up." The voice faded to the end, barely audible. I swallowed the metallic taste of blood in my mouth, and at the moment when tears were about to overflow from my eyes, I said, "I just returned to the country and need to adjust to the time difference. I'll sleep first." Then, I broke free from her other hand and returned to my room alone. The blanket covered my entire face, tears rolled down in big drops. And I curled up in pain. This heart-wrenching feeling is even 100 times worse than the pain I felt when I first started rehabilitation. I even wondered if this was just a nightmare. Just like the kind of dream I often had when I first started rehabilitation, I dreamed that I will always be just a foolish cripple. I can never pick up a spoon, saliva will flow out as soon as I open my mouth, and I will never learn how to use the toilet. I don't know how long it has been. But my blanket was pulled open, and the bed sank down in one spot. I knew Jiangyi was back. The air was terrifyingly quiet. I finally couldn't help but slowly sit up and meet his gaze. His shirt had 2 buttons torn off, his tie was half gone, there were purple bruises on his face, and even the corner of his mouth was torn. "Did they hit you?" "It's nothing. This is what I deserve." I certainly understood. At this critical moment, the invitation has already been sent out. The wedding banquet has been booked, and if he regrets the marriage at the last minute, the bride's family will not let him off easily. If I don't come back tomorrow, they should have spoken their vows, exchanged rings, and completed the ceremony under everyone's gaze. Just thinking about this, my fingertips were deeply embedded in my palm, my throat felt sore, yet I still asked the question that had been buried in my heart. "Jiangyi, do you also think that I won't come back?" Jiangyi pressed his lips together, his eyes slightly lowered. After a long while, he slowly uttered a few words. "Xiao-sun, I will be with you. I will never leave you again." He did not answer directly, but the sincere promise in his words made me feel even worse. At that moment, Jiangyi's phone rang. He took out his phone, and on the screen was a photo of him and that girl, with the caller ID reading, "Darling wife." The font has also been set to a cartoon style. It must be the handiwork of that girl. "Kiss kiss, my wife," what an affectionate term. Once upon a time, Jiangyi also called me that. Noticing my gaze, Jiangyi quickly pressed the reject button. The person on the other end was persistent, calling one after another. Jiangyi directly turned off the phone, looking at me. Somewhat apologetically, he said, "I'm sorry, she might need some more time." After a pause, he added, "But don't worry, I will handle it well." "How long have you been together?" The sudden question caught Jiangyi off guard, and he tightly gripped his phone. His voice was a bit hoarse. "It's been a year." I closed my eyes. A year. It turns out that when I was afraid my ghostly appearance would scare him, I let my brother hide the news of my waking up from me. When I was working hard every day to learn to walk, getting my head bloodied from falls, when I was trying hard to learn to speak, my tongue bleeding from being bitten. When I couldn't unbutton my pants and got them dirty, every time I was about to give up, but just thinking that as long as I recover, I would be able to see him, I gritted my teeth and persevered. He has fallen in love with someone else. 3. Jiangyi's promise to always be with me has not been fulfilled. He only stayed with me for a day, then left in a hurry, because that girl was sick. Before leaving, he solemnly promised me that he was just going to check on her, and after confirming she was okay, he would cut all ties with her. But he was gone for a whole week. Feeling defeated, I gathered the things we had exchanged during our dating and prepared to return them to him. I'm not that kind of person. I didn't beg a man for love. I'm not that foolish. If he really wanted to find out, even if I deliberately had my brother keep it a secret, he wouldn't have not known about me waking up for a whole year. I always make excuses for him. He is very busy. The plane tickets are expensive. The journey is long, and he has parents to take care of. In the end, even I am tired. So this time, it's me who doesn't want him. Just as I was holding these things and preparing to mail them out, Jiangyi's current partner unexpectedly came to my door. She was wearing a loose-fitting dress and holding a tote bag with the logo of a maternal and child health hospital. Seeing me staring at the bag in astonishment, she gently stroked her belly and smiled. Jiang-yi and I almost got married. You don't think nothing happened between us, do you, senior? The word senior shattered the memories I had sealed away. The familiar girl in front of me turned out to be Feng Duowei, the junior who had always stuck to Jiang-yi during our university days. No wonder my aunt became their witness. She and Feng Duowei's father were lovers when they were young. Are you trying to use old feelings to bind Jiang-yi? She tilted her head, revealing an innocent look, and then took a pull tab from the cardboard box I was holding. That was the token of love between Jiang-yi and me during our student days. He said he would give me a real diamond ring in the future. Unfortunately, the diamond ring ended up on someone else's hand. Don't be silly. He knows he has become a father and is extremely happy. She threw the pull tab to the ground like trash, then leaned close to my ear and said, I'll tell you another secret. Actually, Jiang-yi and I have liked each other for a long time. For years ago, on the day of your car accident, he was going to break up with you. In that moment, it felt like all the blood in my body had frozen. I remembered Jiang-yi's hesitation that day and thought about his indifference over the past 4 years. I used to think my devotion and fearless commitment were all for someone else's benefit. When I turned around, Feng Duowei intentionally bumped my arm, knocking the box out of my hand, spilling all kinds of things on the ground. Seeing my dispirited appearance, she couldn't help but look delighted, as if telling me, see, in the end, she still won. Unbeknownst to her, she stepped on a crystal bracelet. Immediately, her body swayed, and she fell onto the steps, blood immediately flowing from her leg. She was terrified, her face pale, and shouted at me, You're a murderer. Jiang-yi, who came running over, pushed me off balance. Lin Su, how could you be so cruel? Although my heart was as dead as ashes, I didn't hold back and slapped Jiang-yi's face. I'm not as disgusting as you all. Feng Duowei's family reported me to the police, threatening to send me to jail. My aunt looked at me with a strange expression, as if she wanted to cut all ties with me immediately. My friends and classmates, upon hearing about this, secretly called me a heartless madman. But soon, the investigation results came out. There is a surveillance camera with recording function in front of my house, which clearly recorded Feng Duowei's arrogant and disgusting face. Her fall and miscarriage were entirely her own fault. The day Jiang-yi apologized to me, I stood on the rooftop and looked up at the stars. Originally, the countless stars in the sky were visible, but now only a few remain. Everything had changed without me realizing it. Xiaoxuan, I was wrong. I shouldn't have doubted you. Please come down, I'm begging you. My aunt also rushed over. Xiaoxuan, I'm sorry for you. Please don't do anything foolish. You see, when you start to despise this world, the whole world comes to love you. I walk on the edge of the rooftop, like a leaf about to fall. Jiang-yi knelt in front of me, his head bleeding. He said he loved me over and over again. I am really a bit tired. During this year of rehabilitation, my mental health also deteriorated. At its worst, I needed medication just to barely fall asleep. At that time, I naively thought Jiang-yi would be my salvation, but who knew he would push me into a deeper abyss. I lost 4 precious years, lost my health, lost the ability to love, lost my studies, and became disconnected from society. I will never be okay again. I spread my arms, letting the autumn wind pass through my hair, yet my heart was strangely calm. As I fell backward, I looked at Jiang-yi and said, I curse you, never to gain true love. For, I didn't expect, the rooftop leap. I suddenly returned to the day of the car accident 4 years ago. Young Jiang-yi stood in front of me with his head down, hesitatingly saying, Xiao-sun, actually do you want to break up with me? The familiar plot reappeared, and I couldn't help but say the words that had been in his heart. He suddenly looked up, staring at me in shock. You cheated on me with Feng Duowei. Given your unusual behavior these days, you've been cheating for at least 3 months. After a pause, I let out a long sigh. I agree. A few casually spoken words, as if they were about someone else's affairs. Jiang-yi became flustered and argued, I didn't cheat. I don't know where you heard these things, but I have never betrayed you. His voice became softer. I feel that we are not very suitable for each other. How ridiculous. Jiang-yi pursued me for a year. We were together for 4 years. And now he only thinks we are not suitable. I let out a cold laugh. The clock tower in the distance chimed 8 o'clock. Snowflakes floated down from the sky, and the traffic light at the intersection flickered twice before going completely dark. Everything is just like in a past life. Jiang-yi, I originally wanted to give you a chance. If you openly admit that you have fallen for someone else, I would be willing to respect and bless you. Unfortunately, You don't even have the courage to admit that you made a mistake. I took a step back and looked at him with compassion. 20-year-old Jiang Yi, young and full of vitality, but deep down, he is so pathetic. It took me a whole lifetime to understand. At that moment, the sound of tires scraping against the ground came from not far away, and two bright headlights shone over, blinding me. A large truck was heading straight towards me. Jiang Yi on the opposite side was so scared that he fled backward, afraid of being implicated, but the car heading towards me suddenly crashed into a stone pillar. The body of the car tilted, and with a sharp turn, it headed towards Jiang Yi's direction. With a loud bang, a figure fell to the ground. The world is silent. A streak of crimson color flows out on the pure white snow. A tear fell from my eye. If Jiang Yi were to rush towards me like I did in my previous life, recklessly throwing himself at me, then the truck would only crash into the wall on the opposite side. Both of us would be unscathed. What a pity, my Jiang Yi, the boy I loved when I was 16. He never even glanced at me. Jiang Yi was lifted onto the ambulance, and I picked up the phone that had fallen in the snow, just as a message came in. Just a minute ago, Feng Duowei couldn't wait to post a photo of her kissing Jiang Yi. Caption: You finally belong to me. Many people below are offering their blessings, including Jiang Yi's brothers who all call me sister-in-law. Only my brother, who has a restructured family, commented, "These days, those without shame are so blatant." But soon, the comment was deleted. Years ago, my dad and stepmother both passed away in an accident. My aunt took away more than half of our compensation. It was Yuming who raised me. He even dropped out of high school to support me through college. During that year of rehabilitation abroad, he was the one who stayed with me. I dialed Yumingi's phone, and the sound on the other end was noisy. The current Yumingi is not yet the future computer mogul. He is just a little brother who helps people manage the scene. My nose tinged with sadness. Yumingi, I miss you. 5. Yumingi borrowed a broken pickup truck and braved the howling wind and snow to cross most of the city to see me. The first thing he said was, "Xiaoxuan, don't cry. If you still like Jiang Yi, I have a way to make him break up with that third party." When he said this, his eyes were filled with hostility. It seemed like he could roll up his sleeves at any moment and beat up those scummy men and women. My heart warmed. I remember in my previous life, when I woke up from a deep coma, the first person I saw was him. He taught me how to eat, taught me how to speak, and accompanied me while walking. He never complained about me getting my clothes dirty and would even help me wipe my drool. The nurse at the hospital secretly mocked me, saying that no matter how beautiful I looked, it was useless since I couldn't take care of myself and would never get married. He even ran out to argue with others, saying that my sister would never get married, and that as her brother, he could support her. During those dark days, he was almost my only source of emotional support. Looking back now, redemption was right beside me. Why insist on pursuing someone who isn't worth it at all? Fortunately, in this life, I didn't help Jiang Yi avoid the car, but I am still healthy. Everything is still a new beginning. This time, I'm the one who doesn't want him anymore. I got into Yumingi's car and smiled firmly. "Let's go to Jiang Yi's house. I'm moving out. Break it off." And break it off completely. The car quickly arrived at Jiang Yi's house. A whole wall was filled with all the large and small awards I had won from dancing. I still remember how excited I was when I moved everything into his house and planned everything here. I wanted to keep a bird of paradise on the balcony, a white carpet, buy an air fryer, and have a makeup table. At that time, I naively thought this place would be my home for the rest of my life. I slowly put these things into boxes and slowly erased my past traces. Then I closed the door and left the key with the property management. After doing all of this, I suddenly felt very relieved. Stop loss in time. It is a lesson I learned over a lifetime. At that moment, Jiang Yi's brother sent me a message. "Sister-in-law, Jiang Yi had a car accident, and his right leg was amputated below the knee. The location is..." I didn't even finish reading the rest of the message and directly blocked that person. Sister-in-law. This blessing should go to Feng Duowei. After the weekend, I went to school for class as usual. The whole department is spreading two pieces of news. The first piece is that I was cheated on by Jiang Yi and Feng Duowei. The second thing is that Jiang Yi is disabled. There's a third thing. My roommate Ren Qing leaned closer to me. She is a know-it-all. Nothing that happens in the entire school escapes her ears. When Feng Duowei went to the hospital to see Jiang Yi and learned that he had his limb amputated, she was so scared that she almost fainted. As soon as Jiang Yi woke up, she proposed a breakup, saying she was still young and couldn't spend her life with a disabled person. TSK, breaking up on the day of the official announcement and even deleting everything from her social media. Ren Qing scoffed and looked at me. "Xiao Sun, It's good that you ran fast, otherwise that scumbag would drag you down for a lifetime. I stared at my toes and said nothing. Being physically disabled and abandoned by the one you love, a great life ruined, he should experience this feeling himself. More than a month passed just like that. I am getting more and more accustomed to school life. Not only did I successfully catch up with my studies and rank first in my department, but I also received a substantial scholarship. Just as I was sending a message to Yuming to share my joy, a message suddenly popped up in the group saying that Jiang Yi was about to be discharged from the hospital, and everyone wanted to hold a gathering to celebrate his recovery and cheer him on, encouraging him to get back on his feet soon. I thought to myself, what is there to celebrate when he has lost a leg? Shortly after, the group sent several photos of the ordered flowers and fruit baskets, and Jiang Yi's brothers didn't forget to tag me in the group. Sister-in-law, you haven't come to see Iga during this month in the hospital. You must come on the day he is discharged. There was also a location of the hospital attached below, a blatant hint. Had they forgotten how they commented on how well-matched and congratulated when Feng Duowei officially announced being with Jiang Yi? Why did the new sister-in-law run away? And now I'm reminded of my old sister-in-law. Just as I was about to retort, Ren Qing sent a string of voice messages. Did you guys tag the wrong person? Xiao Sun, the ex-girlfriend who got dumped, can't bear this title of sister-in-law. The group was quiet for a minute, and soon someone replied, since Iga is like this, what's there to argue about the past? Argue, indeed, they are all cut from the same cloth. You guys don't understand anything. Jiang Yi only lost a leg, but Xiao Sun lost her love. I was filled with emotion. Thank you, Ren Qing. My internet mouthpiece. 6. I wasn't polite either. After cursing those people out, I left the group. I don't even want to deal with Jiang Yi, let alone his group of friends who can't tell right from wrong and have distorted values. Ren Qing privately praised me for being both cool and rational, and even said she was afraid I might soften my heart. How could that be? The events of my last life are still fresh in my memory. I'm not that much of a saint. The matters in the group have come to a temporary conclusion. That day, I arranged to have dinner with Yuming, but his phone was always unreachable. My right eyelid kept twitching, so I had no choice but to call his manager. It was only then that I learned a customer had caused a scene after getting drunk in the store that afternoon, and he was injured while maintaining order and had gone to the hospital. I hurried to the hospital, and since I couldn't reach him, I had no choice but to run around like a headless chicken searching for him. I didn't expect to run into Jiang Yi here instead of finding Yuming. Long time no see. He was sitting in a wheelchair, his cheeks sunken, his complexion pale, and his right leg was only the part above the knee that remained. The dark pants hung down, leaving only the empty pant legs. When he saw me, he reached out to pull the blanket over his leg, trying to cover the missing part. His voice was a bit excited. Xiaxuan, you came to see me, huh? I didn't expect to run into him here. The wheelchair wobbled to my front, and Jiang Yi tightly grasped my hand. His dry lips moved slightly. They all said you wouldn't come. I don't believe it. We have 4 years of feelings. I know you can't forget me, and you still worry about me. I can't help but think of the various things from my past life, and remember his stammering on the day we broke up and his cowardice when danger approached. A chill ran through my heart. Just then, Yuming walked by from the front. I pried open Jiang Yi's fingers one by one. I said expressionlessly, you're overthinking it. I'm not here to see you. I'm here to find my brother. After saying that, I completely ignored Jiang Yi's ashen face and ran straight towards Yuming. In this world, he is the only person I care about. There is only him. At this moment, Jiang Yi's friends came to pick him up after his discharge from the hospital. One of them noticed, isn't that Lin Sun? I knew it. She said she wouldn't come, but she still couldn't let go of Iga. But who is the man by her side? He seems quite close to her. I was only focused on checking if Yuming's injuries were okay, and after confirming that he was fine, I pulled him away from there. The smell of hospital disinfectant and those people really annoyed me. Hey, why did she leave? No way. She really isn't waiting for Igu anymore. Someone exclaimed in surprise. At this moment, a pair of eyes pierced into my back. Glancing over, Jiang Yi was frowning, his fists tightly clenched. Jiang Yi doesn't like Yuming. Before we were together, he once told me that he didn't like the way Yuming looked at me. Now that Jiang Yi has lost a leg and is in great physical and mental pain, I am still completely focused on the person he doesn't like. He must be in unbearable pain right now, but I don't care what he's thinking. I don't even have the intention to take revenge on him. I simply spoke firmly to the people around me. Yuming, you resign. I probably don't have the patience to wait for Yuming to rise to fame according to the trajectory of the previous life. I can't stand to see him get even the slightest injury. My scholarship is completely enough to support myself. I don't want you to work so hard. Nightclubs are full of all sorts of people, and those who get drunk and cause trouble are always there. Today was lucky. I just got 2 stitches on my forehead. I don't know what kind of trouble might happen next. What do kids know? It just looks scary when bandaged, but it's actually not painful. He tried to use a light atmosphere to change the subject, but before he could finish speaking, I hugged him. He was thin, and hugging him was uncomfortable. Yumingi, I have thought of all the worst possible outcomes after you went to the hospital. If something happened to you, I really would go crazy. His voice was choked with sobs. My luck wasn't very good in the last life. My lover abandoned me, and my family betrayed me. Only this non-blood-related brother has never given up on me. I wasn't very resilient. I endured 3 years of illness, a year of rehabilitation, but I couldn't endure the 12 days after returning to my country. Since I can start over, in the past, he protected me, and now I will protect him just the same. The sudden embrace made Yumingi's chest tighten. After a long time, he patted my head. No need for formality, just call me brother. A consistent appearance of grandeur and righteousness. After a pause, his voice softened. Brother will listen. 7. After returning to the dormitory in the evening, I used my saved scholarship to buy a computer online and sent it to Yumingi. I know that Yumingi is a genius in this area, and in the near future, he will use his talent to achieve remarkable results in computing. In my previous life, he took care of me while I was in a coma and worked, which left him completely exhausted. In this life, I want to do everything possible to relieve his worries and help him succeed as soon as possible. At that moment, a strange phone call suddenly came in. After answering, there was no one speaking on the other end. Only shallow breathing could be heard. I said a few words, preparing to hang up. When the other side finally spoke in a hoarse voice, "When did you move out? Why didn't you tell me?" It turned out to be Jiang-yi. "You didn't take the keys either. Are you not planning to come back? Ridiculous. Are you not moving out? Are you going to stay there for the new year?" "Jiang-yi, we broke up," I kindly reminded him. "It was you who didn't want me." There is a long silence over there. Just as I was about to hang up the phone, he said, "I regret it." Regret? Is it real regret? Or is it that Fong Duowei ruthlessly abandoned you, and now you remember? My goodness, so what? So, can you come back? No way, I firmly refused. I am not a dog that wags its tail and goes back just because someone else beckons. Although my childhood experiences left me lacking love and extremely insecure, but I still have a bit of backbone. The moment I found out he was cheating, in my heart, he was already completely dead. I hung up the phone decisively and added the number to my blacklist. Having a hard time living again, no one should think they can disgust me. The next day, I went to the cafeteria for breakfast with Ren Qing. During this time, she kept hesitating and was not in the right state of mind. The porridge in the bowl was almost stirred into mud. I noticed she had something on her mind and asked her the reason. After hesitating for a long time, she cautiously looked at my expression and said, "I received some news, Jiang-yi. He took a lot of sleeping pills yesterday and was sent to the hospital." After saying that, she scratched her hair and said, I'm sorry, I know I shouldn't say this, but I feel like you should be informed." I paused my action of drinking soy milk and said blandly, "Is he dead?" Ren Qing shook her head. "No, he was rescued in time. He should still be in the hospital now." I took a sip of soy milk. "If he dies, everyone should pool money to buy a wreath. Count me in. If he doesn't die, then you don't have to tell me about his matters anymore." Where is this even going? Sleeping pills, deliberately setting fire to oneself, rushing into the middle of the road, even finally jumping off the rooftop with a heart full of despair. What I have experienced is 1,000 times more painful than what he has. Compared to my 4 years of living hell, what he has gone through is nothing. After knowing about this, I went to class and the library as usual, with no inner turmoil at all. The news about Jiang-yi taking medication has also spread in a small circle within the department. People in the class thought I was too calm and secretly called me cold-hearted. Cold-hearted me, compared to Fong Duowei, who immediately distanced herself upon learning that Jiang-yi had his leg amputated. I, as an ex-girlfriend who was cheated on but never spoke ill of my ex, am practically an angel. Okay, after 2 days like this, the president of the dance club dragged me to buy props for the club. After getting in the car, I realized that the driver was the president's boyfriend, who is also Jiang-yi's good friend, Shen Fan. I didn't want to get involved with anyone related to Jiang-yi again, but out of respect for the president, I held back. Who knew the car suddenly deviated from the route and took a roundabout way to Jiang-yi's house. I looked at the familiar buildings outside and said coldly, "What's going on here?" The club president looked uneasy and glanced at Shin Fan beside him. Shin Fan was straightforward. "For the brother, sister-in-law, I'm sorry." After saying that, he grabbed my wrist without further ado and pulled me upstairs. As soon as I entered the entrance hall, I heard the sound of something breaking. Fang Duowei's crying voice came from inside. "Jiangyi, didn't I make myself clear that day? I can't be with a disabled person, and I already have a new boyfriend now. You keep bothering me like this, my boyfriend will be upset." Wow, truly, they are Jiangyi's good brothers. To cheer him up, I tied two sisters-in-law. Shin Fan's face was also a bit embarrassed, and then another cough came from inside. It was Jiangyi's voice. "Get out. It was the stupidest thing I've ever done to like you." As soon as the words fell, Fang Duowei ran out immediately. When she saw me, she bit her lip and glared at me angrily. "Watch your boyfriend. When she had legs, she was his girlfriend. When she lost her legs, she became my boyfriend." I felt my chest tighten with anger. At that moment, Shin Fan pulled me into the living room. She ran out ahead of me and locked the door from the inside. "Little person." Our movement startled Jiangyi in front. He had his back to me, thinking I was Fang Duowei who had returned. He angrily said, "Didn't I tell you to get lost? You tell me to get lost, but why don't you open the door for me?" 8. Jiangyi's body stiffened, and he turned his wheelchair around. He looked terrifyingly haggard after not seeing him for a few days. His hair was messy. There were obvious dark circles under his eyes. Stubble of varying lengths had grown on his chin. His cheeks were deeply sunken, and his entire face was pale without any color. Our eyes met, and he anxiously reached for the blanket draped over the back of the chair, trying to cover the defect in his right leg, but the blanket wasn't taken off, and he fell heavily from the wheelchair. His face showed a look of pain, and after struggling a few times, he couldn't get back into the wheelchair. He was desperate, pounding the ground with his hands, and tears of frustration burst from his eyes. Jiangyi was once a key player on the high school basketball team, and after entering university, he won various awards for the school. The more glorious he was before, the more pitiful he is now. I remained expressionless, standing there watching him all along. My heart felt no ripples at all. He doesn't deserve my sympathy. I won't help him either. Just like those 4 years, he never came to see me at all. At this time, Yumingi called me, and just before getting off the car, I sent him a distress signal. Now, he should be right outside the door. I told Yumingi that I was locked inside the room. After confirming that I was okay, he immediately grabbed the fire extinguisher from the hallway and smashed the door wildly. Just as the door lock was about to be smashed, Jiangyi, without regard for his dignity, quickly crawled to my feet and grabbed my pants leg. His eyes red as he said, "Xiao-sun, I'm in pain." In pain, I took 2 steps back and coldly looked at him. "You deserve it." The door banged open. Yumingi rushed in from outside and grabbed my shoulders. "Are you okay?" I shook my head and was about to leave with him. Jiangyi leaned against the coffee table, trying to support his body but failing. I could only say to my back, "I was wrong about the past. I shouldn't have done anything to hurt you. Xiao-sun, please don't hate me." Okay, I didn't even look back. Not just hate, it's simply disgusting. Outside the hall, Shin Fan, with a bruised face, lay on the ground groaning in pain, scaring the president to the point of almost crying. Looking at this situation, Yu Ming must have hit hard when he attacked. I wasn't polite either. As I passed by Shin Fan, I kicked him again, and the president cried even louder. Jiangyi is certainly unforgivable, but the moral kidnapping by Shin Fan is even more despicable. Yu Ming drove me back to school and comforted me not to be afraid. He rented a house near the school to conveniently take care of and protect me in the future. He also gave me all the money he earned from making small program games. It was several times the amount I spent on buying him a computer back then. He patted my head and said, "Xiao-sun, the days ahead will be good. With your brother here, no one can bully you." I nodded. In the evening, the president came to find me and said that Shin Fan was in the hospital. He also said that they were just helping out of pity for Jiangyi, and even if they didn't inform me in advance, they shouldn't have been so harsh on Shin Fan. If your boyfriend is flirting with other girls behind your back, cheating on you, and breaks up with you while you are seriously planning your future together, even blaming you for the mistakes, would you forgive him? If your boyfriend had an accident, lost a leg, and came back to you after being dumped by other girls, would you forgive him? The president bit his lip and said nothing. Since you can't do it, why do you expect me to be able to? In the end, the president still apologized to me. Another half-month passed, and Jiangyi surprisingly returned to school. Perhaps due to his stubbornness, he didn't use a wheelchair and came to class with crutches. However, on the first day he came, the weather was bad. It had just snowed in the early morning, and the roads were particularly slippery. When he saw me, he pretended to be relaxed and wanted to greet me, but as soon as he raised his hand, he fell into the snow. A kind classmate passing by helped him up and noticed that the pant leg of his right leg was empty, so he directly carried him on his back. He even kindly asked him which classroom he wanted to go to. At that moment, the facade of strength and the remaining pride on Jiang Yi's face crumbled. He said no with a pale face, and was mistaken by a kind-hearted classmate as being embarrassed. When he arrived at the classroom, he chose to sit in the last row. Jiang Yi was once a star figure in the school, and almost everyone in the class knew him. The girls in the front row kept turning around, even bending down to deliberately look at his leg. Haha, cheating on your partner will be struck by lightning. Now he only has one leg. He won't be able to cheat on anyone anymore. Jiang Yi felt embarrassed and lowered his eyes. He heard it. The next class is PE. Because the snow outside had not been completely cleared, the teacher chose to have the class in the gym. I took gymnastics as an elective. And after finishing my practice, I went to get some water, only to unexpectedly run into Jiang Yi, who was sitting in the audience. His gaze was fixed on the person playing basketball not far away, and his hand unconsciously clenched the pants of his right leg. Jiang Yi was born to play basketball. He had fought for the school for 3 consecutive years and won quite a few trophies. Unfortunately, he can no longer play basketball. I finished my water and prepared to leave. A voice sounded from behind me. If I had chosen to save you when the truck came, would everything have been different? I didn't respond. Even if he were given another chance, he wouldn't come to save me. Selfish people are always selfish. It's just that the cost was too painful, so I only now realize regret. At that moment, a bell-like laughter came from beside us. I and Jiang Yi looked in the direction of the sound, and saw Fang Duo laughing and hiding into a boy's arms, and the boy kissed her ear. Jiang Yi turned his head away, looking unhappy. It had only been 2 months, and Fang Duo already had a new lover. That's right, who can love someone with all their heart, never changing their mind, except for that fool from the previous life who pushed his lover away, getting hit by a car. I turned to leave. And suddenly Jiang Yi stood up and grabbed my hand from behind. Xiao Sun, can you give me another chance? His voice choked as he said, I shouldn't have misjudged people and cheated on Fang Duo Wei. It is only now that I realize, I have only loved you. I withdrew my hand, and with a faint smile at his hopeful gaze, I slightly curled my lips. Unfortunately, I no longer love you. Not only do I not love you, but I also feel disgusted for having loved you in the past. Jiang Yi stumbled a few steps and almost fell to the ground. 9. The next day, Jiang Yi dropped out of school. Those who once stood on the clouds ultimately could not accept their fall to the ground. Soon it was the day of the college dance competition. In my previous life, I filled out the registration form to participate, but unfortunately, before the competition could arrive, I became a vegetable due to a car accident. Even if I recover in the end, I will never be able to dance again. This has become a permanent pain and regret in my heart, so this time, I prepared an original traditional dance and practiced it carefully for a long time. The performance was very successful. I was surrounded by flowers and applause after a long time, and I also represented the school to win first prize. After the competition, I held the trophy and was about to find Yuming to celebrate, but I unexpectedly ran into Jiang Yi, whom I hadn't seen for a long time. He had been waiting outside the theater early, having gotten the news from somewhere. He was holding a bouquet of flowers in his hands, awkwardly turning his wheelchair, and then presented it with both hands. I promised you before that if you could win an award in this competition, I would buy a bouquet of red roses for you. Congratulations, Xiao Sun, you finally got what you wished for. Jiang Yi was even weaker than before, with deep sunken eye sockets. And even speaking a single sentence seemed to take a long time to catch his breath. Even if he appeared in front of me in such a pitiful state, he still brought up things he had promised before. It still could not move my heart. I straightened my back, didn't even look at him, and followed the crowd down the steps. The most heartless response is never a rejection, but ignoring. Soon, it was New Year's Eve. Myself and Yumingi decorated the small rented house beautifully. We watched the New Year's Eve countdown show together in front of the TV. Half a month ago, I was invited by a satellite TV station to dance at the New Year's Eve party. It was a pre-recorded show. It will be broadcast today. I was eating the dumplings that Yumingi made for me while watching the skit. He was focused and waiting for my appearance. Finally, it was my turn to appear, and Yumingi's eyes lit up. He even rewound it to record it and downloaded it to his phone to watch repeatedly. It was almost 12 o'clock. and the host in the program was counting down. When it got to 1, my phone rang. It was a text message from an unknown number. Xiaoxuan, congratulations on finally becoming the person you wanted to be. I'm truly happy for you. I directly added the number to the blacklist. I could guess who it was. After graduating from my senior year, I successfully joined the most famous dance troupe in the capital. Yumingi's company is also on the right track. On my birthday, he took out a savings book with many zeros on it. This money is enough for us to buy a house of our own. Xiaoxuan, brother promised that he would never let you live a life of drifting and being alone, and he has done it. It's still not enough. I shook my head, and under Yumingi's surprised gaze, I extended my left hand. I still need a diamond ring. Yumingi was both crying and laughing, like a madman. I thought you didn't know my thoughts. Silly, if you truly love someone, how could you not know? But not only have I woken up, I have also been getting better and better during this year of rehabilitation, and soon I will be able to stand and be no different from ordinary people. There aren't many people invited, but they are all friends who have sincerely helped me over the years. Renqing cried like a pear blossom in the rain when I exchanged rings with Yumingi. She said, Xiaosun, you deserve the best happiness in the world. At the end of the ceremony, I raised my glass to toast the guests. I unexpectedly saw a familiar figure in the crowd. Our eyes met, but that person hurriedly fled. I didn't care and held on to Yumingi's hand. The next day, a news headline broke out locally. A disabled man fell from a high building and unfortunately died on the spot. Story 2. Before the college entrance examination, I secretly took the love letter the school beauty wrote to my childhood sweetheart, which led to them not getting together. He hated me for a lifetime. Even after discovering my secret crush on him, he said I was jealous and vicious, and that he would never like me. Later, we died in a car accident. Before dying, he said that if he could do it all over again, he begged me not to ruin his good relationship with the school beauty, as he wished. This time around, I didn't take the love letter, and then, in order to enter the same school as the school beauty, he gave up the multiple choice questions in the comprehensive science exam. 1. After the college entrance examination results were announced, Gu Fei and Jiang Chuyan got together. At the graduation party, his romantic act of giving up the multiple choice questions in the comprehensive science exam for love spread widely, and he was called the god of pure love. I sat in a dim corner with a wine glass in my hand, looking at the two people surrounded by the crowd in the center, and took a sip of the juice in the glass. My best friend Song Xiao, who was beside me, was greatly shocked and couldn't understand. Is he crazy? He cut off his own future with his own hands, just for this uncertain future with Jiang Chuyan. Yes, this time, he chose Jiang Chuyan over his future. In the previous life, I secretly took the love letter before the college entrance examination to help him choose his future. But what I got was his hatred for a lifetime. Even after discovering my secret crush on him, he said to me with extreme disgust, Wen Qian, I'm not interested in jealous and vicious people. Your love makes me sick. In fact, I didn't hide the love letter from him. Instead, I returned it to him on the night after the college entrance examination. But when he took the love letter to find Jiang Chuyan, what he got was a rejection. Gu Fei, our grades are so different. We won't be in the same school at all. How can we be together, be apart for 4 years? The boyfriend I need is someone who can be by my side anytime and anywhere. Can you do that? After the dejected Gu Fei came back, he gave me a cold look. The next day, his parents hurriedly came to me and said that Gu Fei planned to change the target university he had already decided on, and asked me to persuade him. I wasn't too surprised, but before I could say anything when I found Gu Fei, his eyes fell on me and he sneered, What, stealing the love letter once wasn't enough? Wen Qian, do you want to come and ruin it again? Standing at the stairway where the wind was blowing, although it was a sunny day, it was a bit cold. I looked down at him, who was decadent and irritable, and only said one sentence, Gu Fei, it took you a full 12 years to get to where you are today. In the end, under the threat of his parents with their lives, Gu Fei gave up changing his volunteer. And he still didn't get to be with Jiang Chuyan. Since then, I became the chief culprit who prevented him from being with Jiang Chuyan and the target of his venting whenever he felt frustrated thinking about it. Until the last moment of his life, he was still resentful of me. In the bloody and pungent car, he begged hoarsely, if I could do it all over again. Wen Qian, please don't think you know best and interfere to ruin our fate. So after being reborn, as he wished, I didn't take the love letter before the college entrance examination. Gu Fei smoothly saw the love letter, saw that Jiang Chuyan said she liked him too, but was worried that the gap was too big and they couldn't make it together. so she hadn't responded for a long time, and then he directly cut off his own retreat without leaving any room for maneuver. He gave up the multiple-choice questions in the comprehensive science exam. He scored more than 100 points less than in the previous life. Finally, he successfully narrowed the gap with Jiang Chuyan and got together with her. After several rounds of drinking, someone suddenly mentioned me, with a tone of emotion. At first, I thought Wen Qian would be the one to be with Gu Fei. After all, the two are childhood sweethearts and evenly matched, but Gu Fei immediately refuted it himself, probably worried that Jiang Chuyan would misunderstand. He said distantly, "Just ordinary friends who have known each other since childhood." I smiled silently and silently recited these 4 words: ordinary friends, too, but Gu Fei was right. We really have known each other since childhood, from the start of school to high school graduation. We were always in the same class, apart from my parents. The person who spent the most time with me was probably Gu Fei. I've seen him stay up all night to solve a problem. And he's seen me in a miserable state of still taking an exam with a fever of 40 degrees. No one knows better than us how much effort is needed behind the top 3 rankings that everyone says come so easily. On the day we entered high school with the first and second highest scores in the city, Gu Fei pointed to the first 2 photos on the honor roll of the college entrance examination on the publicity board and asked me, "In 3 years, it will be us here, Wen Qian, do you have confidence?" Behind the young man was the setting sun's glow on a summer evening, rich and gorgeous. In my ears was the ear-piercing cicada chirping, full of vitality. I held my books and looked at him sideways. "Gu Fei, it's a deal." At that time, what we saw in each other's eyes was all the longing for the future, the desire for our ideals, and the determination to succeed. But soon, there was Jiang Chuyan in Gu Fei's eyes. During that high school period when most students were slaving away for their dreams, Jiang Chuyan was uniquely beautiful. At the cultural festival not long after the start of school, Jiang Chuyan, wearing a white dress, stood in the center of the stage, like a bright moon falling. The hazy halo blurred everything around her. Only she alone entered the eyes of everyone present. After that night, Jiang Chuyan's name spread throughout every class and became the white moonlight in the hearts of many teenagers. Gu Fei was one of them. The first time I noticed something was wrong was when he came back from delivering test papers for the math teacher to the next class. He sat in his seat with a slightly red earlobe. The test paper in front of him remained there for 4 evening self-study sessions, but he only wrote 1 question. On the draft paper filled with dense calculation formulas, 3 inappropriate words appeared: Jiang Chuyan, although he drew many horizontal lines over them with a pen. It couldn't cover the traces at all. Later, I heard that when he went to deliver the test papers, Jiang Chuyan from the next class flirted with him. She accidentally bumped into Gu Fei's arms and hugged him while playing around with her friends, and Gu Fei, who was hugged, was stunned for a moment and then only said with a straight face, "Be careful." Jiang Chuyan just looked at him and smiled. "Sorry, top student. Oh, and you're really handsome." Suddenly, there was a burst of hubbub around. Gu Fei, who had always been calm, reserved, and never showed his emotions, was flustered. Gu Fei and I were somewhat similar in character to a certain extent. We were rational and clear-headed, as calm as warm water, while Jiang Chuyan was emotional and passionate, like an effervescent tablet thrown into warm water, and it was a beautiful effervescent tablet, so I wasn't surprised at all that Gu Fei was attracted to her, just like in many idol dramas and novels. The personalities of the male and female protagonists are contrasting, and it is always publicized that people are attracted to those who are different from themselves. There are so many examples, such as the domineering president and the Cinderella, the top student and the underachiever, or the aloof flower and the warm little sun. At that time, I thought that even if Gu Fei was tempted, he should still understand what was most important, but he, who had always been calm, composed, and sensible, still rebelled for Jiang Chuyan once. 3. I actually didn't know how he got familiar with Jiang Chuyan. After all, being trapped in the heavy schoolwork every day left me with no time to spare. The most I talked to him about were the solutions to this problem, the answers to that problem, or whether we were ready for this exam. When I realized that he and Jiang Chuyan were getting closer and closer. Jiang Chuyan was already calling him bookworm and top student very skillfully, and Gu Fei's reaction clearly showed that he was already used to it. I started to notice that Gu Fei would leave for half an hour every noon to teach Jiang Chuyan problems, and he would suddenly have something to do every weekend morning to participate in the small gatherings organized by Jiang Chuyan. I knew that Gu Fei had fallen in love with her. But this couldn't make me stop and focus on their gradually deepening relationship. I continued to study hard, until the national physics competition in the second year of high school. The school had to select one student to participate through layers of screening. In the last round of the 5-to-1 selection, Gufei didn't come, because Jiang Qiuyan had a fever and fainted. After sending her to the hospital, at her request, Gufei chose to stay and accompany her in the hospital for the whole afternoon. I don't know how to describe my feelings at that time. I only remember that when I ran to the hospital to find him, all my emotions finally turned into a puzzled cry. Gufei, he leaned against the hospital corridor, with a calm expression, and only said one sentence. I've lived a rule-abiding life for so many years, I always have to rebel once, right? So he gave up the painstaking preparations he had made for so long and forgot about the nights when he had brushed questions while sick time and time again. At that time, looking at the handsome and elegant young man in front of me, I felt a moment of unfamiliarity, and even a trace of inexplicable tears welled up. However, I didn't say anything, but I knew very well that Gufei's behavior was not a good sign, so when he was about to face the second choice, I made the choice for him in advance. I took the love letter that Jiang Qiuyan gave him on the eve of the college entrance examination. Before that, I had actually prepared for Gufei to confess his love to her after the college entrance examination and then the two of them getting together. I had also prepared to send my blessings. However, I didn't expect that on the way to the meeting for the top 100 students in the grade, when I went back to the classroom to get my notebook, I would run into Jiang Qiuyan putting the love letter. In the empty classroom, she stood beside Gufei's seat, talking to her friend. The general meaning of the conversation could be summarized as, the reason she got close to Gufei was a bet with her friend to chase after Gufei, the top student in the grade, but during this process, she really fell in love with him. However, she felt that the gap was too big and they couldn't enter the same school, and she didn't want to be in a long-distance relationship. So even though she knew Gufei liked her, she always emphasized that the two of them were just classmates. Writing the love letter was to show her hope of going to the same university as him and also her intention to be with him. Before, I could be certain that Gufei would never give up his future for anything or anyone, but at that moment, I wasn't sure. To prevent that 1% possibility, after they left, I went in and took the love letter, countless times after that. When facing Gufei's sarcasm, I would repeatedly think about whether I was wrong back then. Once I tried to communicate with him calmly. Gufei, even if you had seen it in advance, what could you have done? Were you really going to give up your future just to be with her? He sneered and interrupted me with certainty. When Qian, I looked at him and was silent for a while. Finally, I smiled softly. For the first time, I realized that I was indeed wrong, terribly wrong. 4. As the party was coming to an end, Jiang Qiuyan, holding Gufei's arm, walked up to me and raised her glass to me with a beaming smile. When Qian, you've accompanied Gufei for 18 years, no matter how ordinary the relationship is, it's different from others, so, you will also bless us, right? I looked at the young man beside her, wearing a black t-shirt with a relaxed expression, and smiled and politely corrected her statement. I didn't accompany Gufei for 18 years. We just happened to be on the same road and walked together for 18 years. In the future, we won't be on the same road anymore. There are already so many people blessing you for happiness and a good life today. You don't need one more from me. I wish you a bright future. I was sincere. After all, we all came from ordinary families. After years of hard study, who wasn't striving for a good future in the previous life? After Gufei entered a top-tier university, he became the favorite student of the most prestigious professor in the physics department. He got to know a group of respected teachers and made countless like-minded friends. With the best resources in the country, he advanced with high spirits in his favorite physics research. The name Gufei repeatedly appeared in academic journals, and his figure could be seen talking eloquently at research conferences. His future was bright. The only regret was probably Jiang Qiuyan. His former white moonlight, that was his obsession for a lifetime. At occasional class reunions, when people mentioned her, it was always about who she was with, who she broke up with, or which rich second generation had confessed to her with a large amount of money. The last time I heard news about her was during the spring festival. She was going to get married. That night, Gufei drank himself drunk with his friends. When he came back, he knocked on my door, coincidentally. My parents were not at home. As soon as I opened the door, he rushed in and taunted me with a fierce look. Wen Qian, you must be very happy now, Right, she's getting married, are you satisfied? I stood quietly beside the sofa and listened to him vent. Then I poured him a glass of warm water. Drink some water. He didn't take it. In fact, after so many years, I was also tired, looking at his appearance as he gradually fell asleep after being overly emotional. I casually covered him with a blanket. After returning to the bedroom, I received gossip news from Song Xiao through her intricate WeChat moments. It is said that Jiang Chuyan's fiancé is a nouveau riche. He fell in love with her at first sight at a friend's birthday party. Jiang Chuyan had a boyfriend during the pursuit. At first, she didn't agree. Later, the nouveau riche started to spend money on her until she was willing to break up. I looked down at it in silence. Suddenly, I really wanted to know what the final outcome would be if Gu Fei had really given up his future for Jiang Chuyan back then. Originally, I thought I would never know the direction of the other choice. Unexpectedly, I would go back to the past and everything would start over. Gu Fei finally got what he wished for. Looking at the two people who had returned to the center of the crowd and were being coaxed to kiss, I finished the juice in my glass and then turned around and left. I had hypothesized about the choice countless times before. Gu Fei's imagination was always that even if he and Jiang Chuyan entered the same school, he could still reach the same height with his own abilities. In fact, no one could know the final answer. But, Gu Fei, I'll be waiting and seeing. 5. This time around, except for Gu Fei's choice, nothing has changed. I still entered the same university as in the previous life with the same score and was admitted to the mathematics department I liked. During the entire holiday before leaving for school, I didn't see Gu Fei again. Because he accompanied Jiang Chuyan on a graduation trip, I found a part-time job tutoring junior high school students. Occasionally, when I went out and ran into Gu Fei's parents, I could see the bitter smiles on their faces when they greeted me and a few silver hairs in their black hair. I thought that they probably would never know why Gu Fei, who had never fallen out of the top 3 and was hard-working and talented, suddenly performed poorly in the college entrance examination. They were even worried that he would be too sad, so they would try every means to comfort him, force a smile in front of him, and let him go on a trip to relax. For a moment, I didn't know which would be more bearable for them, knowing the truth or never knowing the truth, but looking at them, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of sadness in my heart. After all, apart from my parents, they were the elders who had the most contact with me and watched me grow up. 6. 4 years can change a lot of things. The once green and tender teenagers and girls have now become mature and steady, talking about their plans for the future, sharing the competitions they participated in, and exchanging the job offers they received. They all have the halo of prestigious universities on their heads and have won numerous awards. Although they haven't entered society yet, their futures are promising. Because of the traffic jam, I arrived the latest. As soon as I entered the door, I was enthusiastically pulled into the center of the crowd. Due to similar experiences, I quickly joined the conversation. Just as I was gracefully communicating with them about my life in the past 4 years, someone suddenly pointed at me and pretended to be angry, saying, "You don't know, in our sophomore year, several universities jointly held a debate competition. Coincidentally, when Qian and I became opponents, at that time, we were overwhelmed by her complete logical loop. I didn't feel the friendship of my former classmates at all." I smiled at him and said, "You're too kind." He still didn't let me go and continued to tease. "I didn't expect that. Wen Qian, you always used to be quiet and gentle, but on the debate stage, you were extremely rational. Pressing step by step and not giving an inch. I'm curious, do you act like this when you quarrel with your boyfriend?" This remark caused a burst of laughter. Then, someone seemed to suddenly remember something and turned to look at Gu Fei, asking him, "Hey, why isn't Jiang Chuyan here, our god of pure love? Didn't the school beauty come with you?" It was only then that I saw Gu Fei, who had been sitting in the corner of the private room without speaking, like the others. He had also changed a lot. The humility and confidence in his eyes in the past had now completely dissipated. How should I put it? Although he was still quiet and reserved, sitting here now, he seemed a bit out of place. It was as if he was an ignored outsider. Those teenagers who had once enviously called him the god of pure love had now become young people who had received better resources and seen a bigger world. When this topic was brought up again, there seemed to be a somewhat subtle feeling. There was a faint hint of mockery and a sense of watching a joke in everyone's words. After all, he used to be the most powerful among these people. Now he didn't even have a topic to participate in the discussion. Song Xiao held a wine glass and sighed softly behind me. Sure enough, reality is reality, different from idol dramas. 4 years after a frame in an idol drama, Perhaps the male protagonist would achieve great success after a counter-attack, but in reality, Gu Fei now was neither more handsome nor more successful. He was no match for anyone present. After all, a person's success cannot be completely attributed to their own efforts, platform, resources, connections, talent, opportunities, environment. Each of these is an essential condition. So the Gu Fei who was once famous in the physics world was now almost unknown. I wasn't surprised. Gu Fei, who was suddenly asked, was stunned for a few seconds and then looked at me. His Adam's apple rolled up and down, and he said in a very calm tone, "We broke up." 7. A few days after the party, my best friend Song Xiao came to share with me the gossip she had heard about Gu Fei and Jiang Qiuyan. Shortly after they entered the university, under Jiang Qiuyan's training, Gu Fei not only mastered the skills of taking pictures, retouching pictures, and choosing lipsticks, but also fought with other boys for Jiang Qiuyan. I remembered that during that time, I indeed saw on WeChat moments that Gu Fei, who used to only occasionally forward physics-related information, would post some photos or videos of Jiang Qiuyan every 2 or 3 days. At that time, I thought that true love could really change a person. However, when the passionate love period ended and they entered the plain water period, Gu Fei began to be busy with his professional courses, and Jiang Qiuyan met more people in various activities. The two of them would occasionally have differences of opinion due to some disagreements. Jiang Qiuyan disliked that Gu Fei didn't have time to accompany her because of the competition and frequently asked Gu Fei, who was concentrating on preparing for the competition, to accompany her out. And Gu Fei didn't understand the first cup of milk tea in autumn that Jiang Qiuyan needed. He didn't understand why that particular cup of milk tea, which could be bought every day, had a different sense of ceremony. The minor disagreements that were not serious but accumulated more and more. The final result was a cold war. The more Song Xiao talked, the more excited she became, with a somewhat cold and indignant tone. Once upon a time, what was the truth and love in that so-called true love? When the novelty wears off, there will only be more and more contradictions. Moreover, not only did they meet more outstanding people, but there was also a real sacrifice on one side in their relationship. This invisible bomb only needs a fuse. So when Jiang Qiuyan was pursued by a rich and handsome second generation, she became increasingly dissatisfied with Gu Fei. After all, the biggest halo on him back then was the first ranking. But in a bigger world, grades were no longer the only criterion for measurement. Regarding the gradually fading relationship and Jiang Qiuyan's subtle dislike, Gu Fei finally couldn't help but mention that he gave up the multiple-choice questions in the comprehensive science exam for her in the college entrance examination, but what he got was just a taunt from Jiang Qiuyan. "For me, Gu Fei, that was your own choice, wasn't it? Don't blame me for the result of your choice just because you're not satisfied." When it came to this, the relationship was completely torn apart. Soon, the two broke up, and Jiang Qiuyan seamlessly connected with the rich second generation. So far, a love story with the labels of school beauty, top student, and giving up scores and full of legendary colors came to an end. I casually flipped through the magazine and lazily responded to Song Zhao's passionate speech. "Oh, really?" She was quiet for a few seconds and then suddenly sighed faintly. "To be honest, as a friend who was in the same class as him for 6 years, I'm really disappointed and regretful for him. Even if he had taken the exam seriously and made a choice when filling out the college entrance examination application after the scores came out, did he really have to cut off all his retreats? I really want to know if he regrets his choice now. That love for which he could give up scores only lasted for 4 years after all." I smiled and calmly said, "This was his own choice. Whether he regrets it or not, no one will bear the consequences for him anymore." 8. However, in the previous life, under his daily resentment and disgust, I really regretted it. At that time, because of our studies and work, we lived in the same city and were both in the academic circle. Inevitably, there were various intersections, whether deep or shallow. After going home, due to our parents, we maintained a superficial harmony and some dignity, but every time we met, I was almost always faced with his cold sarcasm. I thought about it. His hatred for me probably reached its peak when he discovered my secret crush. I have had the habit of keeping a diary since I was a child, because I spent the most time with Gu Fei. There were the most contents about him in the diary. It recorded that we went hiking together. He carried me home when I sprained my ankle. When I overslept and was late in the morning, he would stand in punishment with me. When I forgot to bring my book, he would hand me his book. We went to the library together on weekends, represented the school in various competitions together, comforted each other when our rankings dropped in exams, and also argued endlessly about the solution to a problem. Everything between Gu Fei and me was trivial and ordinary. There was no experience that would cause a large emotional fluctuation, so at first, I didn't realize that I had fallen in love with him. It was only until the day he pointed to the photos on the publicity board and asked me if I had confidence that I belatedly realized that between the lines on each page of the previous diaries, there was a revelation of my love for him. I liked his attitude of striving hard to achieve his ideals, liked the way his eyes shone when facing difficult problems, and also liked it when I was discouraged and had the idea of giving up. He would look at me with a serious gaze and ask me, "So, are you going to stop here, Wen Qian?" So that night, for the first time, I wrote in my diary, "I like Gu Fei, I like Gu Fei," but later, Jiang Chuyan appeared and got closer and closer to Gu Fei. After all, I didn't have much contact with her. The only connection between us was Gu Fei, so in the diary, I only mentioned her once and wrote one sentence, "Gu Fei, he likes Jiang Chuyan." After that, because of the love letter incident, the relationship between Gu Fei and me became more and more tense. Every argument was consuming my love, just as the heartbeat that started without knowing when. The end also had no source. I originally thought that the secret crush on him would never be known. I didn't expect that he would see my diary when my dad called him to help install the newly bought bookshelf. To this day, I can still clearly remember the mocking look in his eyes when he held up the diary and looked at me. He asked me coldly, "You like me, right?" I looked at the diary in his hand, was silent for a moment, and then frankly admitted, "Yes, I used to." Probably my overly calm appearance was a bit irritating to him. He suddenly threw the diary at me forcefully and angrily questioned, "So you had to take that love letter?" The hard cover page scratched across my cheek, and it hurt a bit. At this moment, I suddenly realized that in fact, I no longer liked him. Facing the diary that was casually thrown down by him and contained my past heartbeats, I wasn't sad at all. I just picked up the diary that had fallen on the ground, wiped it, and seriously apologized to him. "I'm sorry, Gu Fei, I shouldn't have taken that love letter, I shouldn't have delayed your fate, and I shouldn't have liked you without permission." He still wasn't satisfied. He turned his head and snorted softly before turning around and leaving. Leaving behind those words that I remembered deeply, jealous and vicious. To be honest, although I liked him at that time, compared to that shallow love, what I cherished more was the friendship of walking side by side. So the purpose of taking the love letter was never to prevent him from being with Jiang Chuyan. I just hoped that he could get a score that matched the efforts of the past 12 years without being affected. So I delayed the choice he faced for a few days. I never envied Jiang Chuyan either. I always understood that feelings couldn't be forced, so if he and Jiang Chuyan got together, I would send my blessings, and then continue to move forward on my own path. I wasn't inseparable from Gu Fei. Now, it can be considered that the wrong track in the previous life has been corrected back to the right direction, and I am on the path I should have originally taken. Although I didn't take that love letter again after being reborn, I didn't deliberately distance myself from Gu Fei in this life either. At least before the college entrance examination, everything was the same as in the previous life. However, after all, we lived in different circles for 4 years, so when we met at the party until the end, we didn't have a single conversation. This kind of drifting apart relationship actually had no impact on me, so I didn't take the initiative to seek him out to ease the situation. Until his mother was hospitalized due to illness, I was taken by my mother to visit her. After putting down the fruits we brought, I sat down in the ward filled with the smell of disinfectant and listened for a while to the chit-chat between my mother and Gu Fei's mother. Then I went outside to answer a phone call. When I went back, I met Gu Fei beside the flower bed. He was wearing a black coat, with an inescapable look of fatigue and boredom between his brows, and a half-lit cigarette between his fingertips. This familiar expression made me stunned for a moment. In the previous life, when he was blocked in his research project or when he tried hard to win back Jiang Chuyan but failed, he had this kind of expression. At that time, although he was in the limelight, he still made unknown efforts behind the scenes. The academic path was ultimately difficult and lonely. As for winning back Jiang Chuyan, after achieving certain achievements, Gu Fei actually went to look for her and indeed re-established contact with her. But at that time, almost all of Gu Fei's connections, resources, and social circles were in the city where his university was located, and he spent most of his time in the laboratory. So compared with those rich second generation who were also pursuing Jiang Chuyan and had both money and leisure, his advantages were not great. In the end, after he courted her for half a year, Jiang Chuyan still rejected him. making a perfect exit from his life. From then on, the bright moon hung high and was no longer attainable, and the charge of me taking the love letter to hinder their relationship also accompanied him for a lifetime. After all, in his opinion, if he and Jiang Chuyan had been in the same school and stayed together back then, the ending would definitely have been different. Now, looking at him sitting here, I don't know why he has such an expression again. The moment our eyes met, he extinguished the cigarette between his fingers. Then he stood up and walked towards me with a calm expression. His voice was hoarse after smoking, a bit dry. I didn't have time to say hello last time we met. Wen Qian, you've changed a lot. You've become more beautiful and more outstanding. He paused, and then apologized to me with a somewhat guilty look. I was naive back then, because I was worried that she would misunderstand and afraid that our relationship would be affected. I classified our relationship as ordinary friends. I really wasn't mature enough. I quietly waited for him to finish, and then smiled at him calmly and responded generously, "It doesn't matter, Gu Fei. We were originally just ordinary friends. What else could we be?" His expression stiffened slightly and then dimmed. Soon, he looked towards the setting sun that was gradually disappearing in the sky, laughed self-deprecatingly, and said with a sense of loss, "Actually." Later I thought countless times about what it would be like now if I hadn't seen that love letter back then. I followed his words and said in a somewhat indifferent tone, "That's impossible. The love letter was placed there, and it was impossible for you not to see it." He suddenly turned his head to look at me. What if someone took it away? I was stunned for a moment. Before I could speak, I heard him ask again, "Wen Qian, if you had seen it in advance, would you have taken it?" I looked carefully at his eyebrows and eyes, trying to find something, but there was nothing, so I calmly shook my head. "No, I wouldn't." We averted our eyes in silence. He suddenly smiled, as if he had finally let out a sigh of relief, and said several times as if he was glad, "That's good, that's good." Then he added, "After the breakup, I always had the same dream over and over again. I dreamed that in the year of the college entrance examination, you took the love letter in advance. And in the end, I didn't get to be with her. And I hated you for a lifetime. Finally, we died in a car accident that I caused. The warmth of the blood was so real, as if it had really happened. I made a sound and planned to return to the ward. I said to him gently, "It's all fake, don't worry about it." 10. But I knew that it was real. The car accident happened on Jiang Chuyan's wedding day. Before that, we were invited back to our high school alma mater to participate in an alumni association. Our former head teacher asked us to shoot a growth-themed video with the theme of Always on the Road for the younger students. Just like that, I got into Gu Fei's car and chose a shooting route. Later, according to the pre-prepared script, I sat in the passenger seat, adjusting the equipment while communicating with Gu Fei about the shooting angles. It was a long-awaited peaceful coexistence since the college entrance examination. The shooting was also very smooth. On the way back, I quietly leaned against the car window, no longer speaking, just looking at the scenery passing by outside the window. Then I heard Gu Fei's phone suddenly ring. He subconsciously pressed the hands-free button in the car. The next second, Jiang Chuyan's delicate voice came out, "Gu Fei, today is my wedding. I forgot to send you an invitation. We've known each other for so many years and we're all friends. I'll send you the time and place on your phone later." With the sound of the phone hanging up, the car fell silent. I was considering saying that I would get out of the car and take a taxi back when he suddenly turned the car around. I knew that he still wanted to go, but unfortunately, he didn't make it, because the next second, we were hit by a truck. The feeling of the internal organs being displaced was really painful. But after the pain became numb, my feeling was actually relief. Before losing consciousness, I heard Gu Fei weakly call out Chan Chan a few times first, and then that sentence that if he could do it all over again, he begged me not to ruin his fate with Jiang Chuyan. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in the beginning of the first year of high school. I don't know what Gu Fei's "that's good" and the recurring dreams mean, but it doesn't matter anymore. The second time I met Gu Fei was on the day his mother was discharged from the hospital. I went to deliver the stewed soup on behalf of my mother. Then I chatted with her for a while and listened to her recall the past. She took out the old paper photos and picked up a group photo of Gu Fei and me after winning a junior high school competition. She said, "Time flies so fast. I remember that when your mother and I were waiting to give birth, we were in the same ward. You were born just one day later than Xiaofei. In the blink of an eye, more than 20 years have passed. Chan Chan, you're still as beautiful as when you were a child. Xiaofei's father really liked you back then. He held you in his arms, and you neither cried nor made a fuss. You just knew how to smile quietly. Later, when you grew up a bit, you and Xiafei were stuck together every day. We adults also said that you two would definitely be together when you grew up. I smiled appropriately and followed her words. Auntie, those are all things from childhood, they can't be taken seriously. She patted my hand and sighed. It's Xiafei who doesn't have this fortune. Now the gap between you two is getting bigger and bigger. He really doesn't deserve you anymore. I smiled softly, originally intending to say that this kind of thought was wrong. Auntie, there's no such thing as who deserves whom. What's important is whether two people are on the same path. She probably misunderstood my meaning and said to me, I heard from Xiafei that he's preparing for the postgraduate entrance examination. The school is the target university he had in the college entrance examination, and it happens to be in the same city where you went to university. At that time, I gently interrupted her. Auntie, I'm going to study abroad, and I already have a boyfriend. I haven't had time to tell my parents yet. Just then, Gufei came back from outside and went to the kitchen to wash his hands. We were sitting on the sofa in the living room. I didn't know if he heard it, but he was standing there with his back to me, motionless for a long time. The air was quiet for a few seconds. Perhaps to ease the atmosphere, Gufei's mother asked about my boyfriend. I smiled and talked about how I met him. He was a boy who participated in the competition with me. He was gentle, clear-headed, humble, and self-disciplined. He was on a direct admission program from bachelor's to master's to doctorate degree. He won national awards every year and also won awards in various competitions he participated in. He could write calligraphy, play chess, and play the drum set. Then I turned on my phone and found a photo of him giving a speech at an academic forum. After showing it to her, I said, he's the person I like very much and also my fellow traveler. The conversation ended here. Later, on the way back, I inexplicably thought of Gufei, who rolled up his sleeves in front of the sink. There were faint scars on his forearm. That was the tattoo that had been removed. Instantly, it was as if time had intersected. The name that had been crossed out with countless horizontal lines on the draft paper in the past was the signal for his relationship with Jiang Chuyan to start. Now, the faint scar from the removed tattoo on his arm had become the symbol of their end. The sudden burst of hormones in that youth had finally ebbed like a tide. 11. The entanglement between Gufei and me has almost come to an end here. I was indeed looking forward to the fate he would face after choosing another path. I wanted to know how he would reach the height of his previous life in a situation where every upward channel is now full of countless competitors. I also wanted to know how the family that had spent countless efforts cultivating him for more than 10 years would support him to pursue his dreams again. I have to admit that I just hoped to see him not doing well on this path to prove that my actions in the previous life were correct. But I also know that I was indeed wrong. There is a sentence in Charles Dickens' The Mystery of Edwin Drood. The best kind of politeness is to mind one's own business. Once you interfere, you have to be responsible. So this time, I positioned myself correctly and didn't interfere in any of Gufei's choices without permission. In the previous life, he regretted not being with Jiang Chuyan. I don't know if he will regret those 21 multiple-choice questions he gave up in this life. However, the wonder of fate lies in the fact that there is never an optimal choice. No matter which one is chosen, there will be regrets. What's important is to bear the consequences of the choice, and now I have no interest in the direction of Gufei's fate in this life. After all, life is so long. Whether he makes a comeback and returns to the peak against the odds or stops here and becomes an ordinary person from now on, it has nothing to do with me anymore. I stopped looking back and continued to move forward. During the 3 years of studying abroad, I was in a long-distance relationship with my boyfriend. When Song Xiao called me, she smiled and teased me. Qian, you're going to be away for 3 years. Aren't you afraid that your relationship with your boyfriend will fade? While rushing to finish the deadline, I calmly replied, although my boyfriend and I are not in the same place, we are heading towards the same goal. Our souls will only get closer and closer. She made an ambiguous tisk sound, and then, as if thinking of something, changed the topic. Do you remember Jiang Chuyan? A nouveau riche fell in love with her at first sight and crazily spent money pursuing her. Her wedding was so grand, she invited a large group of former classmates and received countless envious glances. Unfortunately, within less than 2 years, the nouveau riche became fickle and met a younger and more beautiful girl, so he spent money pursuing her as usual. After being cheated on, Jiang Chuyan made a big scene, but the result was that the nouveau riche wanted a divorce. She didn't agree, and now the two are still struggling over the divorce. I listened casually and suddenly found that Jiang Chuyan's face had gradually become blurred in my mind. Besides remembering that she was quite good looking, I couldn't recall any other deep memories. Even when she was in love with Gufei back then, I didn't think there was anything special about her. I never regarded her as a competitor either. After all, we were people from two different worlds from beginning to end. Probably seeing that I was a bit indifferent, Song Xiao stopped talking about her and instead said, Gufei took the postgraduate entrance examination twice and was brushed off by a difference of 0.1 points each time. What bad luck. Finally, after finishing the deadline, I let out a long sigh of relief and casually replied, oh, then I wish him good luck. Not long after that, one day, I suddenly received a withdrawn message. It was from Gufei, but I didn't ask until I returned to China. A former friend held a welcome back party for me. Gufei, who came along, asked me if I had seen that message. I shook my head and said that I was sleeping in the middle of the night. He smiled bitterly and explained, I had a fragmented dream and mistook the dream for reality. I'm glad I didn't disturb you. After the college entrance examination results were announced, Gufei and Jian Chuyan got together. The middle of the night when he had the dream was daytime on my side. But it no longer matters. Just like that withdrawn message when Qian, did you like me? The answer no longer matters. What's important is that now I will walk further and further on my own path, and my lover is right ahead on the path, looking at his back as he turned and left after looking at me deeply, thin and lonely. My boyfriend came over holding a small cake and softly asked me who that was. I withdrew my gaze.